Welcome to Proclaim. On this episode, we want to introduce a new series about relationships.
Proclaim the glory of the Lord.
As we've talked about in other episodes, this life is all about relationships. And when we talk about relationships, we need to first start with Jesus Christ and work our way down from there. And whether you're talking about that relationship or a relationship with a friend or spouse or whatever, the key to any of those is intimacy. And when I'm talking about intimacy, what I mean is that it's the ability to be vulnerable with somebody else, which allows you to really connect with them at a deeper level. And to be vulnerable with someone, you have to be willing and able to share yourself with somebody else. And this is really the key and the foundation of building any sort of relationship. And the thing with this is that Satan knows that. And he knows how important relationships are to the kingdom of God. And so his desire is to attack that relationship. If he can break it down, if he can isolate us from one another and separate ourselves from other people and even from the Lord, then he has a full opportunity to bring us down. And so we want to focus on those healthy relationships and what God has intended. But I think it's important when we talk about this to mention a couple different ways that Satan tries to tear down or break apart our relationships with God and with other people. The first one is shame. And this is something that pretty much everyone experiences, at least to some extent. And shame is basically saying that there's something wrong with me rather than there's something wrong that I did. So, for example, when I was growing up, I loved to play soccer. I still do, even though I don't get to very often anymore. But I would find when I would make a mistake, maybe I made a bad pass or I'd hold onto the ball too long or what have you, I would just destroy myself. And instead of saying that I had made a mistake, I would say that I am the mistake. And that's what shame does. It says that I'm uniquely wrong. There's something uniquely wrong with me. It's not other people. It's not things that I'm doing. It's me. And Satan uses that to put this false identity on us that we are unworthy, that we are just horrible, wicked, evil, terrible people, and God can't love us, or no one else can love us. There's just something so wrong. And so he uses that shame to keep us away from God and from each other, because if this is what we're feeling in our heart, sometimes the last thing we want to do is tell somebody what exactly is going on. And when we don't bring things out into the light and they dwell in the dark, that is where Satan rules. And that shame can really destroy our relationships with people. The other way that Satan uses to try and destroy relationships is this false intimacy. And I would imagine when you first started watching this video and you heard me use the word intimacy, you were thinking, where's he going with this? Because especially for me, I related intimacy with sex or something like that. And that is really not what intimacy is. That can be a part of it, but it's not the only part of intimacy. And so we have a lot of issues, especially in our culture today and just in the world today, of this false intimacy. Things like pornography or having sex or sexual relations of some kind outside of marriage, where we jump from this process of really to have a healthy relationship in order to be really deeply intimate with somebody, whether that be a friendship or even a spouse. There are layers or levels that we need to go through, that before we can be intimate with somebody, we need to be able to commit to them. And how can you commit to somebody if you don't rely on them? And how can you rely on someone whom you don't trust? And how can you trust in somebody you don't know? And so instead of getting to know somebody and then learning to trust and rely and commit and then jumping to the intimacy, sometimes the world around us tells us, forget all this stuff and jump right to the intimacy part. Because this is what's going to help you feel connected to somebody. It'll make you feel loved and you won't feel so lonely anymore. I understand that mentality, because I have fallen into that. But I'm telling you That is not the way to true intimacy, and it really won't fill the deep need that we have, because every one of us wants to know and be known. We want to love and be loved. And this is the way God has designed us. And so in this series, we're going to talk about different forms of relationship, whether it be friendships or singleness or marriage or family. We want to talk about all of these things. And we want to talk about healthy ways to form intimacy, because intimacy is so much more than something like sex. There are 5 levels of intimacy. The first one is spiritual. That's being able to connect with somebody, sharing our testimonies, sharing our scriptural knowledge and things of that nature. You know, there's a deep bond and connection that forms when we're able to share about those spiritual things. The second one is emotional. And that's just basically being able to share our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions, those things within our hearts that perhaps are sometimes a little scary to share. But we need to be able to find that connection. The third one is social. And that's where we have things in common. We have like hobbies. You know, if someone else likes to play soccer or someone else likes to go camping, or especially if someone wants to talk about the Lord, I love those sort of things. And so we're able to connect in a social way. The fourth one is physical touch. And when I mean that, physical in this sense is non-sexual. It's non-romantic. So it's holding hands. It's hugging. You know, I have a son who is now 3.5 months old. And when I hold him, I just feel this connection, this bond with him. And I feel so much more love. And there's this part of me that is totally full when I'm holding him close. And we all need that. And in fact, these 4, everyone needs. The 5th one is more optional, but it's the one that the world tends to focus on and the world tells us we need to have. And that's the romantic side of intimacy. And that is designed only for the confines of a marriage. And so we want to, in this series, explore all of these through various topics. And we're going to have guests come in and share with us as well. So I hope that you will stay tuned. And if you're not subscribed to the channel, you will. And if you have any questions about relationships, please put them in our anonymous questionnaire below. So until next time, this is Andrew King, your fellow brother and companion in this journey we call life.
Proclaim the glory of the Lord. Let every tongue